let's talk a little bit about how to find common denominators. We talked about a few different methods at our C&P, and I want us to look at those today. So one of the methods we talked about was listing the multiples of the two denominators to find which ones they have in common denominator. So let's list our multiples of 2 and 8. So I can count by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8, and I know I can stop here because the first multiple of 8 is 8. So this could be my common denominator. Some of you said you liked to have the kids make a full T-chart like they did when they were multiplying or finding when they were dividing, and they wanted to list out all the multiples of a certain number. So you may have them do that as well. So you may have them list 1 times 2, 2 times 2, 3 times 2, 4 times 2, and I know I can stop because I know that the first multiple of 8 is 8. Now, these both give me the lowest common denominator because I've found the first multiple that these two numbers have in common. Some of your kiddos, listing out the T-charts may be an easier method for them because they can see exactly what they multiplied times 2 times to get 8 for their common denominator. They see they multiplied 8 times 1 to get 8, 2 times 4 to get 8. Here, it's faster, but some of your kiddos may struggle a little bit to figure out what exactly did I multiply 2 times to get to this 8. They could either count over times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, or they could know that the fourth term in this list of multiples means I multiplied times 4. So that's something you may have to watch for. Another method we talked about, which doesn't always give the lowest common denominator, is just multiply the two denominators together. So if this is a struggle for your kids to do this much, and we know it is for some, then we could just multiply these two numbers together, and we could use 2 times 8 is 16, and we could use 16 for our common denominator. We looked at an array with this method as well because that's the way Mission Math introduces it, and it's a great hands-on approach to how to work with these common denominators. So let me show you how we do that with some square tiles, and I would encourage you to do this with your kids. They need a hands-on way to understand what they're doing. So we know 2 times 8 is 16, so I have a 2 by 8 array, and you can see there are 16 square tiles here. Now, how do I use that to find the equivalent fractions? I know I've got a denominator of 16. Well, if I want half of this group, my first fraction is 1/2. If I want half of this group, I break it into 2 equal groups. This is half, this is half. So I know 8 out of 16, or 8/16, is equal to 1/2 of this array. So my common equivalent fraction would be 8/16. If I do the same thing for 3/8, the other fraction that we're adding, I break them into 8ths, which we know is 2 in each group. I need 3/8 of this group, so there's 1/8, 2/8. 3/8 would be 6 out of 16, which would give me my equivalent fraction to 3/8, 6/16. Now, one of the other things that we talked about that we're not going to do is allow kids to use a butterfly method. We're not teaching them a butterfly method. We're not allowing them to use that method. And what that looks like is I multiply these two together to get the denominator of 16. Then I cross multiply. 8 times 1 to get a numerator, 2 times 3 to get a numerator. The reason we're not allowing kids to use that strategy is they don't understand what they're doing. They don't have any idea where those fractions came from and why they still give you the same answer. We are trying to build on their understanding of equivalent fractions from 4th grade. So we are making sure that kids understand I'm multiplying times a value of 1 to get an equivalent fraction. So what that would look like if I'm using my least common denominators is I know I'm multiplying 2 times 4 to get 8. So what I'm not going to allow kids to do is just write times 4 over here, because 1/2 times 4 is not the same thing as 1/2 times 1. So I'm making sure my kids write times 4/4, because I know whatever I do to the numerator, I have to do to the denominator. So if I'm gonna multiply times 4 to get my common denominator, I have to do the same thing to the top. And this is a value of 1. So whether I use 4 over 4 as my value of 1, or 8 over 8 as my value of 1, by the time I get to the end, I've got the same answer. This strategy will create a little bit of extra work at the end because I'll have to simplify. This one may or may not, depending on what the fractions are. So value of 1 here, not times 4.